Hello, I'm the Commie.
And I am the liberal. And this is what I wanted to tell you guys. We have a new update on the COVID-19 vaccination rate and death rate. Now, it's loading right now. And right now, the vaccination rate's up to 7.1% in general. At least one dose, 66.1%. COVID-19 death rate went up by 1,988, and new cases, 81,280 new cases.
That is a lot. New cases, 81,200, over 81,000. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal because when you see a huge amount of cases, that means that they're really not taking care of the people across the United States and the world, because they are issuing vaccine mandates, which they just did a week ago. And there are some people that are suing over the vaccine mandate. Well, here's the problem: those of you people that are suing the vaccine mandate, it's not registering you people that are suing the vaccine mandate right now, that a vaccine mandate is there for a reason. The reason why a vaccine mandate is there, so that way we could get people vaccinated, and so that way people won't get COVID-19 and end up dying of COVID-19. Because, like Dr. Fauci said, 99.9% of people that get COVID-19 are because they're not vaccinated. That's why we have the vaccine mandate, because Dr. Fauci is tired of unvaccinated people refusing to get the vaccine or refusing to give people the vaccine, and then those people or themselves end up getting COVID-19 and killing people, including themselves.
Very much so. In And we also have to worry about these dumb Republican governors in many of those states, like Warren DeSantis, like Abbott, like the rest. They're not doing their jobs, and they're making it harder for people who really need to get the vaccine. There should be vaccine mandates, because it's those mandates that we get to help people from getting sick. It's needed, and I don't agree with some of what's been said, but I have to get to something. Ethiopia conducts 2 airstrikes on Tigray within hours. War escalates. They're not going to get very far. We're strong. We're not going to oversee anybody getting anything else. I'm just saying, maybe, it might be a mistake, because it's not correct. They're not going to go very few there. It's not right. But in other news, Mitch McConnell just sent a very clear message to Donald Trump about 2022. And yep, Joe Manchin, this is not surprising, considering leaving the Democratic Party. He thinks he's Jim Jeffords, the guy who was a Republican, who left the Republican Party to be an independent, giving the Democrats a majority in the Senate. He thinks he's that guy. The problem is Jim had the support of most people in doing that. Joe Manchin does not. The problem with the media is, and I've said this many times, it has to be said again, they're not doing their jobs. The media is screwing us over, and here's how. They are not telling people what's in the budget bill. People would be more power and to people if they knew what was actually in the budget bill. They don't, because the media has done a bad job serving the people, like always. And I got to say, CNN ridiculously went after Bernie. They attacked him because he said just that the media is not doing their jobs. Absolutely, he has every right to call out the media because, one, it's his bill, though it's the bill Major Paul that is being advocated by the Democrats, but he was the one who drafted it as chairman of the budget committee. So when they attack his bill, he has every right to respond. The media is not giving him that chance. Instead, they're saying bad things. They're even trying to compare him to Trump. When Trump said dangerous things about the media, it's not the same thing. That's a total double standard. Just because he says something about the media. And look, we have to look at the media this way. There are 6 companies, media companies, that control the 90% of what we see, hear, and read. That's dangerous. That's a monopoly. And maybe we should consider breaking up the media because they are not doing their jobs, whether it be with Afghanistan and how they ripped Biden when they didn't even talk about it, barely, very much, where you had reporters like Richard Engel who talked about the Afghanistan war for 6 months, 6 weeks, and then barely talked about it a year later. And then all of a sudden, because Biden withdraws, they're all talking about it big. Well, if it was such a big deal, why didn't you talk about it before? And the other thing is they're screwing us over the now I forgot what I was going to say. Let me try to remember. I'll let the liberal talk as I try to remember my point.
By the way, everybody, one of the things that people I tell you or refusing to do, I tell you, is issuing a stimulus payment across the United States of America, because they keep talking about a 4th stimulus payment, but that never happens because Joe Manchin and Sinema are refusing to pass that bill that gives people the stimulus payment.
There's no talk of a stimulus. I think they are trying to do maybe a little legislation, but as far as I know, there's no talk about stimulus. I think a big reason for that is the fact that maybe they think it's a bit much. You know how politicians are, they tend to be greedy. The government is sometimes greedy when it comes to giving things to people. They don't give enough at times. And sometimes people tend to get worried and hurt. But the thing I want to say about the media is the other thing that they forgot about, that they didn't talk much about, was the budget bill. They screwed us over there, and they did it. And not only that, but they just have not done their jobs. And all of a sudden now, because Bernie calls them out, he's suddenly Donald Trump too. He's suddenly Donald Trump of the Republican Party. How stupid can you be to think a socialist is like Trump, someone who has advocated? It doesn't mean anything because the Bernie's criticism is constructive. It's true. The majority of the media, all the media, are owned by just 6 companies. That's not healthy. And it's not leading to people to get more insight. And that's why you see the popularity of shows like this one, because the people don't trust the media either. and you see the popularity of internet media and independent media and uh, like this show and other shows like the Majority Report. Kyle, you know his name. His name.
Kalinske.
Yeah. So he that's why they're popular, because people are tired of the same old crap they get thing from the media. And right away, you have people who are getting the same old story, and people just don't like it. And I think the media is dropping the ball like they always do, going all the way back to Vietnam, even the 1940s. And so, where the media was complicit in the government, that's who I was going to say, Colin Powell. They dropped the ball on Colin Powell. He's a war criminal, and look at how they covered it. They covered it like it was a grandiose event. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't be honored a little, but the reality is he's a war criminal who's committed deaths, who was responsible for the Afghanistan war and the Iraq war, who defended it and who kept pushing on without there being a majority and with people knowing that there was problems with intelligence. He knew that would happen. The CIA was complicit. They knew that there was not enough information to go to war in Iraq. Now, maybe there were WMDs there, but recent reporting came out a few years ago that has sort of vindicated Bush in that area. But the idea that Saddam Hussein was connected to Al Qaeda, that wasn't true. They knew that. It wasn't about terrorism. I'll tell you what it was about. It was about oil. That's what war is, just how much oil we can get from other countries. If you look at all the big enemies the U.S. has, they're all oil nation states, and they do that because they want to get oil. They profiteer on war, and people die, and that's why it's not right. If you look at the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they were totally complicit in so many illegal things over the past the past century. You could go all the way back to 1898 when they had the Spanish-American War, which was over illegal funds. It wasn't about oil, but it was illegal. It was about territory and making profit. That's what the U.S. is, and that's how it works under capitalism. That's just one way capitalism is evil as hell. It is that way. Is that there were so many considering people who are at war because of these reasons. It's not right, and I think what we need to do is to have an investigation over this, and really it goes all the way back to look at our enemies. Let's take a look at some of our enemies. Venezuela, the obvious one, they have the world's largest oil reserves. I could name you a bunch of quotes from politicians. I don't have them right off, but there are several where politicians have said, Republicans, and even one Democrat who were pro-war and were complicit in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Gulf, the Grenada War. And then, of course, we know about what we did in Nicaragua. We didn't invade, but we did give aid. That was illegal to the Contras, who were evil. And then, of course, we all know what happened in the case of Cambodia, where Nixon bombed illegal Cambodia with Kissinger, and that led to war crimes because over 20,000 were killed. They were innocent civilians. They knew they were innocent. They did that on purpose to drag them into war. All of this is evidence and of war crimes going back many years. And of course, what happens? The U.S. they walk out scot free, and in a perfect world, in a great society that exists, there would be a prosecution of these people. Every single person who has committed these war crimes in the Bush administration, in the Obama administration, in the Clinton, the Reagan, uh, Ford, Nixon, and Trump administration should be prosecuted for war crimes, because even Donald Trump committed them in Syria. There were bombs in Syria, and they knew that they were not criminals, innocent civilians, and they killed them on under tape. It's on WikiLeaks. They found it. It's on so many sources have said, and all of these war criminals need to be prosecuted, and Trump especially, because he has even more problems than just war crimes. But going all the way back again to Nixon, there was war crimes committed in the name of the U.S. and in our name. That is wrong, and that's where taxpayer dollars are being misused. Um, but the other thing we wanted to talk about, and I'll let you comment. What do you think about the war crimes, all the attacks by the U.S. Military on Iraq, Afghanistan, the drone strike, and I forgot Biden. Biden committed war crimes as well. The war crime where 11 people were killed by the drone strike. And what they knew, they had some knowledge that this was going to happen, and they didn't do anything about it. So Biden, we have to look at him too. They are war criminals. And I'll say this about Biden. He has failed in many respects to get the agenda of the people done. He hasn't done enough when it comes to getting people together. And although Joe Manchin might be leaving the Democratic Party, that's something we'll talk about in a few minutes. But I want you to comment. What do you think about all these wars, these crimes, and the fact that it's all about oil? It really is. With the exception of Afghanistan, that was about mineral. But even North Korea has big oil reserves. It's one of the largest states in the world with oil. Is that why the U.S. is doing that? Maybe that's why we have such bad relations with them. So what would you have to say?
What I have to say about war crimes is it's not necessarily to commit war crimes, and not only that, that's true. But otherwise, what they did was wrong, and we shouldn't kill innocent people just to get oil. And plus, oil kills people too. It has pollution, it has gas in it, it has tar in it, and it causes smoke, and all of that causes heart attack, stroke, and cancer. See, that's why we shouldn't kill innocent people just to get oil. And what I have to say to the people that committed war crimes, but because they want to get oil, is because they're greedy. But do you want to know why these people are greedy? Because all they want is money. They don't care about people at all. And that goes for Trump, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, of course, Ronald Reagan, and of course, Joe Biden, because he's guilty of war crimes too.
He is.
He had no reason to issue a drone strike on of course, Afghanistan and kill innocent people. He knew, and as well as his predecessors knew very well that this was going to happen, and they refused to do something about it. Well, you know what? The ones that refuse to do something about it are guilty of war crimes too. because they're in on it. They're in on it because they refuse to do something about it. They behave just as like all the other war criminals. Trump's a war criminal because he issued airstrikes in North Korea and Afghanistan
Well, in Syria,
and Syria.
not North Korea. We didn't attack them.
But he did attack Syria, though. So he's guilty of war crimes on that.
Yeah. And he's still peddling the fake notion, the false notion that that the election of 2020 was stolen. He even said this, quote, "We don't solve the presidential election fraud of 2020, which we have thoroughly and conclusively documented. Republicans will not be voting in 22 or 24." Trump said in a statement via his Save America that it's the most important thing for Republicans to do. What's interesting about this is Trump is trying to tap into anarchism, because that's the way a lot of most anarchists are. They hate the government so much, they dislike the government so much that they refuse to vote. And Democrats have to be very happy about this statement, because if this goes down Republican enthusiasm, maybe Democrats might have a bit of a chance if this happens. Because the reason why is because even if the agenda tanks, Trump supporters are going to listen to Trump no matter what. So if he tells them to do things, this is the cult that we have in that party, that they listen to whatever Trump does and says, and they don't push back against anything of it.
And the cult of Republicans lie, the Democrats, and across the war saying that they would not support Trump. In actuality, they do support Trump. They lie 7 days a week. Hey, they lie so damn much that they might as well put themselves in prison, and they might as well hang themselves. You know, they're hanging themselves every time they lie. The Democrats across the war. And just think how many times Trump Republicans need to get put behind bars, you know?
Well, I think it needs
They're
to be
guilty
said.
of murder and other crimes.
Well, I think it needs to be said this. We need to think this, that if Republicans don't vote, they will lose big. And maybe there's a way, if that does happen, and I don't think it will, but maybe it will, Republicans might decide to not go and vote on these issues. Because if they don't, if they act like anarchists, they'll lose.
And that would be good for Democrats, because the Democratic Party will win the midterm election as well as the election.
Yeah.
And that's just if Trump's Republicans be an anarchist and listen to everything that Trump says.
Yeah, but the other thing I wanted to say,
they've been doing that ever since 2014,
is that if that happens, if the Biden agenda sinks, maybe it would hurt Joe Manchin, because if Joe Manchin sinks the Biden agenda, and this is exactly why, one reason the media needs to point out what's in the bill, because because people would not support Joe Manchin if they did see what was in the bill, all these great benefits for people. If he loses to the Republican Party and cancels it, there's a chance he would lose. If the Biden agenda sank, people would vote against him. That's why we need, very badly, we need a media that investigates and that does its job. It's not doing that. They don't care. Either that or they're just not very hard. They're very lazy people. Because if they did, they would be reporting and they would be saying, here's what's in the bill. Free community college, universal pre-K, universal child care, the child tax credit, which is wildly popular and might even get scrapped if Manchin has his way. and Sinema has her way, they might get scrapped. So there is much said that there needs to be a policy problem, needs to be rectified, and it will be if they do it right. And that's by not doing what they're doing now, Democrat Biden, and that's actually putting pressure on these two people.
And it's good that talk about putting pressure on these two people, and Biden is finally putting pressure on these two people, because Joe Manchin and Sinema are hard headed. They do not want bills to get passed. They want homeless people to suffer.
They do. They
And
don't care about the homeless. They never have. Going all the way back to 1988, they passed bills and laws to restrict the homeless, to take people off of sleeping off benches, because they think authoritarian way that prosecuting those people is the right thing, that authoritarian prosecution is right. That's not right, and that's where the government is wrong. They should instead be having programs and helping these people instead of getting back at them and by pushing them around. But I will say this: if the Republican Party fails, it will be interesting to see if Trump will get blamed. And that's partially why he was foolish to make that comment. But anyway, the one thing is McConnell sent a message to Trump, and it was basically, if he does this way, he would lose in 2024. That was what he came out with. And so that's what we have found and what's happening. Because if Trump doesn't do that, if Trump doesn't sink the odds, Republicans would win. And hopefully that does not happen, but there's a good chance they might win. But let's click on something else. Joe Manchin considering leaving the Democratic Party. Well, the West Virginia Democrat has told associates he has a plan to leave his party if his liberal colleagues cannot find a way to cut down the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill to a plan to $1.75 trillion, according to so-called left-leaning publication Mother Jones. They're not really that left, but they think that we know how it is with the standards. If Manchin follows through with the plan, he would switch from Democrat to Independent. The senator reportedly has a two-part plan for his exit. First, he would send a letter to Chuck Schumer asking to be removed from leadership, as he currently serves as the vice chairman of the Senate Democrats' Policy and Communications Committee. So
it's something how Joe Manchin's going to move from Democrat to Independent if the Democrats refuse not to deduct and of course not and refuse to of course refuse to not pass the $3.5 trillion infrastructure payment. Because you gotta think of this. What Joe Manchin is doing is totally wrong. They should pass the $3.5 trillion infrastructure payment.
Yeah. The one thing I should say, and me on the report, he is threatening to leave the Democratic Party. I apologize for the language, but he says if his demands are not met on infrastructure, quote, I can't control rumors, and it's, quote, bullshit. Bullshit spelled with a B-U-L-L, capital. So that's apparently something Manchin says. Manchin says he would then wait to see if that showed Democrats how serious he was about leaving if negotiations don't go his way. Then after a week, he would change his voter registration from Republican to Democrat. It's bullshit. Manchin said in the report he was leaving the party. I have no control over rumors. I've been walking around here telling everybody around here the same thing, he said. After reporters pounced on the senator to confirm the report, asked if he was staying in the Democratic Party in caucus, he said, quote, I am where I am. Still, the report serves as a warning to progressives to get serious about okay, that I don't agree with, and that I sort of think was maybe a shot. Democrats who are progressives have gotten with the compromise. There was a compromise. 3.5 trillion. That was the deal that was made. It's centrists like Manchin that are not getting with the compromise. And Sinema isn't either. She's conservative. They're not getting with the compromise and doing their jobs. So I don't like that it's worded it this way. But on Tuesday, progressives who met with Biden said his bottom line number was 1.9 trillion to 2.2 trillion, though they wanted it to be much higher. I want it to be much higher because we can help these people. It's ridiculous that the government isn't doing it. Remember, people need to realize when it comes to debt, the government is not like a person. We think of debt in the way of an individual. An individual racks up debt, he goes bankrupt. That's not how the government works. The government prints money, and the money can pay off debt, or they're able to rack up a lot of debt because they have the money and the power to do so through central banking, among other things, but mostly through that. And so we don't have to worry about the debt. And Manchin has not given us, and Sinema certainly hasn't, given us what we would say. What are we going to get in this budget bill in their version? They're just doing it. I think she's doing it for attention. That's what she wants. And I think it's unfortunate because people should be in office to govern for, obviously, you know what I'm going to say after this, govern for assholes. Joe. They govern for people, and that's what they could do, and that's what they should do, not govern for the corporations. The government isn't supposed to be for the corporation, by the corporation, for big business, and she's only governing for those types of people, and Manchin is governing for those people as well. And I think it's unfortunate.
Let me put it to you this way about Kristen Sinema. Yesterday on the Weather Channel, they found a hole inside the North Pole. And they said on the Weather Channel that this is not the only time they found a hole inside the North Pole. 2004 and 1998, they found a hole inside the North Pole. This time it's even bigger than the last time. And to be honest with you, everybody, Kristen Sinema is refusing to do something about climate change. Well, I'm going to tell you something. When you listen to the woman from the Weather Channel, Monica Davis, it's a video, everybody. She'll tell you how bad that North Pole is because of climate change. The North Pole goes as far as Ellis Island, Canada. Part of the North Pole is in Canada. The west of it is by itself. Well, that's where there was a hole in the North Pole at. Now, in the wintertime, it seals back up. But
Now, I'm not surprised to go back to this for a second that it was worded that way because this is the Daily Mail. Of course, it is a right wing publication. Uh, I used to use them a little in the past. Now I'm not really a big fan of theirs, but I think they dropped the ball. And this is another example of the media being more right wing and more on to the right. It's not right, and I don't think it's good for the country. And again, that's why you see shows like this one coming on, because we would not have a show like this if the media did its job and actually reported on things.
And if the media didn't have something like this, we would be being a lot nicer to the media than they are now. The media, as far as I'm concerned, are a bunch of bullcrap people that refuse to issue the right thing and exact, and instead they issue the conservative wrong thing and exact, and that's totally wrong, by the way. This like with Christian cinema, they don't report the right things and exact what's happening with Christian cinema. They report the one thing in the exact and lie, saying that Christian cinema is doing the right thing. In actuality, she's not. Christian cinema is just being an ass. And that's just the problem with the media. The media is going to keep behaving that way. Hey, they need to just close down the businesses. And the DNC needs to open up democratic media, liberal democratic media, that left wing media. That's the right type of news and exact.
We're not Democrats in that sense that we're part of the party or we're working for the party. This is a left show. We are ideologically on the left. We put out statements that are left. That's what we do. The Democratic Party, and I mean this about the Democratic establishment, they don't think that way. They're politicians. Their policies change on any given day just so that way they could look popular or seem popular in a way. There's not enough principle in the Democratic Party. Now, there are a lot of great progressives, and they're the ones doing the right thing. They have principles. These moderate centrists, both in the Senate mansion and in the House, like Josh Gottelheimer and others, they don't have principle. They just want to obstruct and block everything. They don't want help, things. They don't want people to have the help they need. They're not doing things in a fitting way that for the people. That is what we need. People who actually govern in that way. We're not seeing good governance by that side. And quite frankly, I think I'm more left than the Democratic Party, with the exception of maybe Bernie.
I'm more left.
But I am a Democrat as a registered guy because I think they are the best of the two parties that we have.
But I'm a Democrat too because I'm liberal.
But do they go far enough? No, they don't. They need to have better policy. If Bernie was in charge, things would be a lot better. I know I say this a lot, but if Bernie were in charge of the DNC platform, and if the DNC platform was done by real lefties, you would have talk of public ownership. You would have talk of a democratized economy, of cooperatives, of climate change, of nationalization, of libertarian socialists or communists. Maybe not that, but certainly socialists. You would see stuff like that. the DNC platform does not have that, and that's why I'm a critic of that. And I know it's a year late to say that because the election was a year ago, and it's already happened, or close to a year ago. But the DNC platform does not go far enough to help most people. But we'll see what could be the case. Because another thing about the budget bill that I forgot to mention earlier is that it includes most of the PRO Act, which is the biggest piece of union legislation in years. You have to vote for this stuff, and because that's what the people believe. Everybody supports this bill, even 77% of Republicans. So it shows to me that it's not right at all.
By the way, everybody, coming up on Trevor's birthday, the Commie, on November 3rd.
That's right. My birthday will be coming up in
2 weeks, because the
about
door is
2
on a
weeks.
Wednesday.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah. By the way, everybody, we're gonna have a special guest on November 3rd. Everybody, Victor Olama.
Yeah, Victor Oyuha, my therapist, he will be a special guest on the show. Even if it's Thursday, we might do a special episode on to talk about my birthday. It would be fun, and I can't wait to do a talk with Victor, because I would like to talk to him about the psychology of some of these people who support Trump, why they act the way they do. Why does Trump, is he dangerous? We know he is, but is he too dangerous to be president again? Maybe it would be psychologically too damaging for him. You got to ask these questions, and Victor will answer all of those questions for us there. And I like him. He's a great guy. I can't wait to talk to him on November 3rd, which is my birthday, and it will be fun to see what happens next on that.
By the way, everybody, one of the things I wanted to tell you is earlier today they convicted a man that did the school shooting 3 years ago.
They did. Nick was convicted on today. He pleaded guilty. That's what happened. I think he's a bad guy. It's a sad situation with that. What happened in Parkland, but it really did change people's views on guns. Now people are more in favor of gun control than in the past. The NRA is basically trampled as an organization. It doesn't really exist to a big extent anymore, but it would be interesting to see what could happen. Will we get more gun control? Probably not, because Manchin would probably be opposed. But we got to do something. We got to get some sort of gun control being passed on some way. Because the U.S. is gotten out of hand with crime and with the amount of people who are there.
And there's been a lot of shootings going on because we haven't been passing the gun control laws. And Joe Manchin will probably oppose to it because he's not for gun control. He's for guns, which is evil because more people will die of gun violence. Let me put it to you this way. Here in New Orleans, There have been about like 300 shootings since the year started, and I'll put it to you this way: sometimes at night, I would hear like some type of firecrackers going on, but here's the problem: it's so far away, and when you hear firecrackers, you don't know if it's fireworks or if it's a gun. But every night I hear that type of noise. I just hope that it's firecrackers and not a gun. But sometimes, when I wake up the next morning, there was a shooting that just happened outside of New Orleans or here in New Orleans, and I just didn't hear a gun go off when I was sleeping at night. I slept through it, which is good, but that still doesn't solve the problem that people are dead right now from the tragedy. Like for example, the other day there was another shooting going on. This shooting happened in Texas the other day. I forgot how many people have died or injured, but the other day there was a shooting going on in Texas. That gives you another example that we need to get rid of guns and as well as automatic weapons and just let people defend themselves if they're trying to hurt them or kill them. True, but get rid of automatic weapons because automatic weapons are given to the wrong people, whether it be conservative Republicans or mentally unstable people that will want to take out a automatic weapon or a gun, or a conservative Republican that want to take an automatic weapon and gun and kill innocent people. The one thing you gotta remember, people, that's the guns that kill and not people that kill. It's the NOA's fault that we're having the issue of gun violence. And that's why I'm glad that the NOA sort of does not exist anymore, but they still exist though. And the NOA is sort of closed down, which is good, but it hasn't closed down. And that's why the NOA needs to be put out of business because the murderers, because they were the ones that created the guns, they were the ones that gave it to the wrong people and took it out on innocent people. That's why the NRA needs to be put out of business. And by the way, there was an attack out against the NRA during the 2016 and 20 election. That attack ad is on YouTube right now. So we're going to show you the NRA attack ad from 2016 and 20.
We're not, but
Trevor just said that they don't have the attack ad on YouTube anymore. So unfortunately, we won't be able to show you it. But there was an attack ad against the NOA, and it was on YouTube in 2016 and 20. And it was, of course, about the NRA selling automatic weapons to the wrong people, and the Democrats are saying help these innocent people shut down the NRA for selling automatic weapons to warn people, whether it be conservative or mentally unstable, and innocent people die of gun violence and guns, because it's the guns that kill and not the people that kill. And it's not registering to conservative Republicans that it's the guns that kill and not the people that kill. And you gotta think of this: some mentally ill people are conservative, not registering the mentally ill people that are conservative, that it's the guns that kill and not the people that kill. See, the commie has schizophrenia. he has mental illness, but is a he is a Democrat and a communist. That is the guns that kill and not the people that kill. Only mentally ill people that are Democrat know all of that. But conservative, hard headed Republicans and conservative, mentally ill people think the wrong way about innocent people and guns.
Okay, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, the father will be here.
And I will see you on Friday, by the way. Father will be taking over from Trevor from 5 to 7. And today I'm on it until right now. So we're going to take our first break. The father takes over after the break. This is the Commie and the Liberal on Friday.
Okay, we are back. This is the Commie and the Liberal.
And the father, hello, how you doing, y'all?
So, we have earlier we were talking about war and about
Well, let me know
the
about what we were
budget
talking about. See what we can discuss.
and the budget bill.
Pardon me, please.
So, the Taliban wins back in raid in Moscow talks with a regional balancing U.S. I should say, Colin Powell, as we know, someone we talked about earlier, has died. And I went after him and said that he was, of course, a war criminal and someone who could have taken in the WMDs. Now, I will say this: he does deserve to be honored for being the first black Secretary of State. That's good, great. He does deserve to be not honored for that. I agree. But here's the thing: that doesn't excuse his content and behavior on this issue. And I think if you look at them, he's definitely one of the more uh, outrageous secretaries of state because he presided over Iraq and Afghanistan, and we know he did lots of things and maybe was involved in the torture that Dick Cheney set up with the CIA, which was illegal. So, how could you honor someone like this?
You have good reason. I mean, there's, for feeling that way.
Yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, you could go on and on about the war crimes of the Bush era that were done.
Well, hey,
And
talk about it. How many people died? Just one? No, I don't think so. Thousands.
it was, and you have to look at the fact that uh, I suspect most of these people should be at the Hague, being tried. That's what should be the case, because the war crimes of the U.S. over the last century have been humongous, and the U.S. whenever the U.S. government says they're trying to have freedom and peace and freedom, whenever there's a war, and the U.S. government's like we're trying to expand peace and freedom for the American way, it's it's a lie. It's long been established. It is. It's always war for profit. It's either oil or anything else. That's the way it is. That's how war works. It has this. That's all the way. War has always been a racket, and I think it's just even more bloodshed, more horror, and it's sad that this is the case because there are so many families who have lost loved ones to war over the past 50 years.
Like you're saying, a lot of it is, just the war for profit, to make money. Uh, there's no way they can, show that it's proper. It's not proper. It's totally wrong. And you're killing people. And they're losing people all over because of war. So, No go, man. It's a no go. What do you think, Trevor?
I agree. I think war is something that you should never have to do unless you're being attacked in self defense. You should countries nations should not be doing war like that way they are, and I think it's wrong. And I think it's clear to me, seems to me that there's lots of problems in this world. And a big part of that is because of war, because all it does is profiteer, you make money, and you destabilize the country. Who loses? The innocent civilians who die, the people in that country who are displaced, and the taxpayers who are spending all this money on military and not getting anything in return when it comes to their money. So I think it's wrong that this is the case, and I think it should be illegal for this to continue on like this. So that said, that is the war, the military industrial complex. So,
Well, the real bad thing, which is so true, uh, going to war with the nothing but greed, really, and stuff like that. The bad thing is after the whatever war right now gets over, there's another one that's coming along. Why? Because they want it that way. Why? Because it brings money. Why? Because they don't give a damn about people's lives. They say they do. Man, slam the door in the face.
absolutely, they do not care about any of these things, and they're almost like the military version of Mansion and cinema. They just don't do things.
Those are two people you need to get rid of somehow, something. Find legal how you can do it to move everything. England has it so much together. They know how to take care of it. Why don't you take some learning things from them and use it, for the good sake of people here in the United States?
Yeah. So, yeah. So, so sorry about the pause. Um, the Supreme Court's conservative revolution is already happening. Everyone keeps waiting for the Supreme Court's big right turn, especially this year. The justices have now begun their first full term with a 6-3 conservative majority, and the docket is full of culture war issues such as abortion, gun rights, and religious liberty. I want to say something. I'm going to be getting Social Security benefits, and uh, I'm getting back pay. So I'm gonna be rich. joke.
This guy's funny. He's a comedian. He should have followed in the steps of Jerry Lewis, or some of those guys. Or when the other day we watched Abbott Costello meet Frankenstein. Oh yeah, he's got the humor here. This guy. Oh. Actually, that was a very good movie. Got to make a plug on that. That's for sure. Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, whoa, etc., etc., etc. So.
Yeah, so. But anyway, on religious liberty. But in many ways, the Supreme Court's conservative revolution is already here. The court hasn't been this ideologically tilted in almost 100 years. That I don't agree with. The Supreme Court is actually very impartial, believe it or not. That will turn off some viewers, but it's true. The court really has. The only time the court was impartial, and the only time I was really angry at the court, 2 times. The biggest one was Bush v. Gore. That was something the Supreme Court should never have loaded into. They should never have done. They should never have done that, because that was an election that was supposed to be impartial, and it was an election that they're not supposed to be involved in. The Supreme Court isn't supposed to step in when it comes to elections and try to get money and things off it. It doesn't make sense, and I think it was wrong. And of course, we now know Bush lost. Gore actually had more votes. So it's interestingly true to me that it would not be the case. But anyway, yes, you would.
Definitely, Gore should have been one that should have been put in there. They took it away from him.
They did.
And then, of course, Florida State was being governed by another Bush.
If the recount,
I wonder.
If the recount by about 559 votes, we're starting to have we're back. We had technical difficulties. But the point is that things have happened there. And I think it shows indifference. But now we have 3 new polling takeaways for Trump, Biden, and congressional Democrats. The new poll released on Tuesday contains good news for Donald Trump, bad news for Joe Biden, and a mixed bag for congressional Democrats investigating the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill. First, the Trump news. As we approach the 1-year anniversary of the 2020 election, Republicans want to see the former president run for the nation's office again in 2024 by a sweeping margin of 78 to 16%. That's up substantially from last May, when the divide was a somewhat narrower 66 to 30%. This has to be encouraging for Trump and those in his circle, since it reinforces that he has the party's nomination locked up if he wants it. We knew that already, but these results certainly show no sign of wavering GOP support. When it comes to President Biden, Quinnipiac continues to deliver disappointing results. In this poll, just 37% of the public approves of the job the president is doing, while 52% disapprove, placing him 15 points underwater. This is 1 point worse than the gloomy 38% approval rating the poll captured last week. Does that make Quinnipiac a hair-bringer or continued trouble ahead for the administration? Or does it signal that the polling outfit is the rest? So here's what I think. Biden is the second most unpopular president at this point in in the last 60 years in modern history. Uh, he's last. And I think people need to see and people want progressive legislation. And I think there's going to be problems there with getting problem legislation done. Because if we can't, we got to make these choices. If we can't do the filibuster, we have to leave it alone. We have to get rid of it. And people uh, did all sorts of problems.
Yeah, they got to realize they have to do things to move forward, not backward. Yeah, with the way that they are with claiming to be Democrats and not doing things that show that they're Democrats. Say, man, I spit on you.
Yeah.
So what else is on the agenda?
The Oath Keepers in the state house, how a militia movement took root in the Republican mainstream. Military organization. Dozens of Oath Keepers have been arrested in connection to the. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. This is the Commie and the Liberal. Yeah, the Oath Keepers, it doesn't qualify them as good people.
Not at all.
And with them supporting Trump. Welcome back. This is the Commie the Liberal. You wouldn't have known that we took a break. We were not having technical difficulties. I just turned the microphone off and take a break. But we'll be back now on Monday. I'm kidding. We are back on here now. So, Trump, let's see. New York prosecutor opens a criminal inquiry. This is interesting. Maybe he cheated. They're opening a criminal inquiry into Trump golf course. So now the golf course is being investigated.
Is it really? Why? Because you didn't use the proper money for it?
The Trump organization is already subject of a long-running investigation by Manhattan's district attorney's office